Hey guys, welcome back to the Addictively Speaking podcast, season two, the opener of season two. We're going to get into what I like to call active reflection. So, the further I got into my recovery, I started reflecting on a lot of things in my past. And I know that while you're in recovery and you're going through this stuff, you're just trying to figure out life and what's going on. But I've realized that it's good to look back and look at past behaviors or past actions and things that you used to do. I used to really think that my addiction, stemmed from a traumatic experience, losing my best friend. I thought that's what triggered it all. That's what started it. That was the reason why I drank, and that's why I drank so heavily. And the longer I look back on it, and I look back at all my past behaviors, from starting from when I was a teen and how I had a how the what the relationship was with alcohol and how that worked. And I look back at all my previous memories that I can remember of drinking and going out. I always remember that my drinking wasn't like everybody else's. I always went farther than everybody else. I always took it to the extreme. I never just drank, got drunk, or got buzzed. I always went overboard. I was either throwing up or I couldn't stand that people had to take me home. I remember a couple instances as a teenager, where I couldn't even function. I was so drunk. I ended up on a friend's porch, like hanging over his front porch, like throwing up repeatedly. Everybody else was having a great time at the party and enjoying themselves, and I was incapacitated, absolutely incapacitated. And that continued. There was never a time where that wasn't my relationship with alcohol. So, in looking back and doing a reflection and looking back at these memories, I can look back and say, I never had a relationship with alcohol that wasn't extreme. It was binge drinking. It was, pushing everything to the extreme limit. I couldn't just go out and have a few. Um, I had friends that could go out and have a couple beers and they'd have a great time and then get a buzz and they'd enjoy themselves. And, I was always the person that had to be babysat or watched because I would end up so drunk. I remember being so drunk off of tequila and black sambuca, um, and everybody else was enjoying themselves. And two people were sat with me in a bathroom. I got so drunk that I stood up, ran to the bathroom as fast as I could because I was going to vomit. I passed out midway there, like in the doorway, and passed out and knocked down the entire shower curtain. Everything just smashed into the bathroom like a bull in a china shop. Threw up, repeatedly throwing up. And this is, this now that I look back at it, it was a dangerous situation because everybody that was around me was drunk. And I do remember being left in this bathtub, like hanging over this bathtub, and the water running and me throwing up and the drain blocking and sitting in my own vomit and water and really struggling to be able to lift my head out of the water. And I could feel it like getting to my nose and my face, and thinking to myself, like, if I can't figure out how to get out of here, like I'll drown. Like I'm gonna drown right now. And I just remember somebody like going, "Oh shit, his head's in the water." And then they pulled me out. And like I just remember like gasping like really loudly, being like, but I mean, I was left in there. Like if nobody turned around and looked at me, that could have been it for me. I could have died in that bathroom because I was so drunk that I couldn't move. And that is a terrifying thought to think that, you know, that could have been it. That could have been all over in that moment. Did I intend for that to happen? No, but that's the level I took it to. I mean, those experiences are multiple experiences over a course of 11 years. I spent 11 years doing things of that nature, putting myself in that risk, going to these extreme levels, putting myself in vehicles when I had no business being in a vehicle, playing Russian roulette with my life at every turn. And I think, looking back at these experiences, I now, you know, I can put that all together and it paints a better picture of who I am, as a person mentally, things in my life, I can't moderate. I can't moderate anything. It's with everything, So learning these things makes it a lot easier to accept that's who I am as a person. That a traumatic experience didn't cause anything to happen. It just exacerbated what was already there. That part of me took control of what I was doing. And it was really hard to break free of that control because I was depressed. I was anxious. I was struggling emotionally and mentally and really having a tough time being able to cope. And in my recovery, it's a lot easier to look back at these situations now. And I kind of look back at them now, actively reflecting and looking for things. I'm searching in these memories for, pieces to put together to kind of paint a better picture of who I am and why I do the things that I do and why I'm wired that way. So I think it's important in recovery that we search for these things. It helps me stay focused on my goals. It helps me look at the future and be better prepared for my future and the things that I'll be going through and learning how to deal with all the things that come with life and all the emotions and the situations that cause anxiety and depressions and things of that nature. I'll be better aware of myself. I feel more comfortable with myself. I feel more in tune with who I am. And, doing this podcast has been huge for me because it's given me an opportunity to share some of these experiences and to be able to come out and say certain things. And like when you express these emotions and you express these feelings, it's good because, you know, somebody might be able to relate with these type of situations, or they might be early in recovery and being interested to figure out, you know, things about themselves and what that looks like. Sometimes it is a process and it takes a while and it takes time. Sometimes those memories are too hard to access at first, or you don't want to think about them because you are going through them. You had just recently lived it. So it's not easy to go back and look at some of the really terrible things that you did, or, you know, the way you treated people or the hurt that you caused. So I think, I've been sober now for 11 years. So I've been sober as long as I was in active addiction. So, I think in the early stages, I didn't really look back at anything. I didn't really take the time to reflect on my past. But when I do reflect on things that I've done or pain that I've caused or traumas that I might have brought on other people, I now look at them differently. I look at them and kind of analyze them. I break them down just because it helps me, you know, feel feel like I'm progressing as a person and progressing in my recovery and, taking the steps to better myself. I can't become a better person. I can't become a better father or husband or any of those things without looking back at some of those experiences and looking for, answers to things that I might be going through today, and looking for answers on why I handled situations the way I did then. How can I handle them now in recovery, and how can I make that the best situation possible? And so looking back and doing those kind of things, it to me, that's the work for me, because I know a lot of people go through 12-step programs, and you work the steps, and you do things like this, like reflecting, and there's things like where they make amends, where you go back and you try to, apologize, and, you know, speak to people that you may have wronged. And I think too, I've done a lot of that in my journey in recovery. Is I've looked back and I've tried to make things better. Me, it's more of like a karma thing. I don't know why I believe in karma, but I believe in more of a, like, the universe will balance itself out. And I think, the stuff I do now, the good that I do now, or the things that I bring that are positive, will balance out those bad things that I may have done in my past, or the hurt that I may have caused in my past. um, will balance itself out if I do um, good things, or you know do things that are beneficial to other people, not just myself. Um, so those are the kind of things that I think are important when you're looking back at some of the things that you may have done, because uh, self-reflection is difficult, because you might see some things that you don't like, or some situations that you don't really necessarily want to look back at, or you find it difficult, you know, to process that information. And I think in addiction, you just numb everything. You look for this easy way out where you don't have to, deal with everything. You drink or do drugs, or um, spiral out of control, where you don't feel like you have to be responsible for anything. You're not accountable for anything. And I think in my reflections, I find out where I need to be accountable and the things I need to be accountable for, because accepting myself, holding myself accountable are huge things, because I didn't hold myself accountable. I just blamed it on the alcohol. I blamed all my problems on all those external factors, and not the internal things that were making me do the things I was doing, or accepting the things that I was doing, and taking responsibility for the things I was doing, and knowing that those were wrong, and I shouldn't be doing them. But I continued to do them because I let the alcohol lead me. I let my addiction drive me. It was my driving force. It was the thing that kept me in the same place for a long time, and made it hard to move forward, because you couldn't I couldn't move past the place I was in. I only could see what was around me. I couldn't see anything else. And now I can look back and I can see a picture. I can see the whole picture. Um, because when you're sober, you get a lot of clarity, and I feel like I look I look back and I, like, break things down a lot more now, to look back for answers. Um, and that helps me when I'm looking to move forward in life. I look for answers now. I look for ways to cope. I look for ways to deal. I look for the things that make me feel good. I look for the things that make me happy. I look to set goals. I look to achieve goals. I look to build a life for my family, take care of my kids, be a better husband. These are all things that I have invested interest in, and reflecting on these past things, these past problems, can help me when I'm building this future, because I can go back and look at situations and find out how everything works in my head, where I struggled, why I struggled there, and why I still struggle now to do things, to moderate things, to balance my life, to, you know, achieve the things I want to achieve. I have to kind of reflect. And in my reflective moments, I like to share like the positive moments when I reflect back and see the progress that I've made, the strides I've made forward, even from the terrible moments, the moments where, I didn't think I wanted to live anymore. I went from thinking I'd never be able to have certain things to having everything I never thought I'd have. I never thought I'd have a family. I never thought I'd be able to keep a job or to, you know, provide, to be able to take care of myself, to not be dependent on somebody else or have somebody be that person who, my mom and my dad, they supported me through all that. They took care of me because they loved me, but they also enabled me, which is a thing that if, they let me travel down that road, they didn't make it harder. They made it easier. And I have to accept that they did enable me in a way, and I have to forgive them for that because they did it because they loved me and they didn't want to lose me. But I don't think they knew how to deal with it, and they just wanted me to be out of it, you know? And I think I made that difficult on them, and I have to think about that a lot and, you know, rectify it in a way. I've lost both of my parents, so I have to, come to terms with that. And I gave my mom and dad 3 years of sobriety where they got to see me flourish and they got to see me as the person that they raised, to become the person that they knew I could be, because they knew all along it was there. But they did let me do the things that I was doing. They didn't cut me off monetarily. They, you know, helped me in a way, which made me continue because it wasn't harder. It was just as easy. And I manipulated, um, to get things that I wanted. So I have to forgive myself for those things and forgive them for the things they did as well and accept all of it and learn from it. Because if I don't learn from it and I don't take anything away from it, then what was it all for? Like all the trouble and all the things that I caused and all the pain and all the struggle that I went through. If I don't learn from it and I don't move from it, I don't share it with other people, then what was it for? To me, the only thing I can really do is to share it and give hope to other people and say, you might be struggling, you might be feeling like you're in this empty place, but you can get clean, you can move forward, and you can build the things that you want your life to be. It is tough, and it's a struggle all the time because an addict's mind doesn't work the same way as everybody else's mind. And I know people will say, that's bullshit and you made a choice and, people make choices. Yeah, people make choices. They do. I made a choice to drink, but I didn't make a choice to throw my whole fucking life away. I got swallowed up in that and it took over. And sometimes people just don't understand that. They don't, because their mind doesn't work that way. Their mind is different. Their mind is have a couple beers and have a good time. And my mind's not. I don't have a couple beers. I don't have a good time. I go too far. I end up in jail. I end up in a fight. I end up in a car. I end up throwing up. I end up almost dying. That's how I end up. And that's not how some people end up. They don't they don't have that struggle. They don't deal with that. So how can you process that? How do you, but the people who do that and do understand what it's like in those situations, they're the people I want to speak to. They're the people that I want to reach, because at the end of the day, we all deserve recovery, and we all deserve to know that recovery is possible, and we deserve to feel respected and loved, because recovery is not easy. Moving forward is not easy. Dealing with life isn't easy. It's always a struggle. It doesn't get easier. I'm 11 years sober, and I still have things that play up in my head, and I still have these things that I can't quite get a grip on, but I actively reflect and I look back at situations, and I look for the answers. I try to figure it out. I try to do whatever I can to help myself build a stronger foundation, so that I'll never have to worry about losing it all, or it all come crashing down. I work really hard to keep moving forward, to keep building, to keep growing, to keep achieving the goals I set, to keep positive, and to inspire others and to help others, because I want to help others. I want to share my story. I want people to, I want to help. I just want to help people. I want people to know that there is a way out. So listen, if you're in recovery and you got a couple years clean, look back at your shit. Look back at the stuff you did. If you're in 12 steps, make your amends. The people that you've hurt might not accept it, but it doesn't matter. You're trying to be better, and that's what matters. So the biggest thing in reflecting actively, I think, is taking something away from these horrible transactions in your life. Take something away positive. Learn something about yourself. Take what you've learned and apply it to your sobriety, because that's what's important now. Your sobriety, staying sober, staying clean, building, moving forward, because you need to move forward. Recovery is a process. It takes time. It takes years. And every day you're in recovery. You'll never not be in recovery. So you have to build your life like that. You have to work on yourself. You have to do constant maintenance. You're always doing maintenance on this recovery process. You're working to develop coping skills. You're developing new habits. You might have to develop new friends and new circles and, new activities, to occupy, those thoughts in your head and those cravings and those, you have to do stuff to create a better space for yourself and understand yourself and accept yourself and hold yourself accountable. So I think that's how I'm going to end it, is just to accept yourself, learn from yourself, and hold yourself accountable. And recovery is possible, guys. Thanks.